and for our support for the President's efforts to wage America's war against terrorists and weapons of mass destruction.
The Iraqi regime possesses biological and chemical weapons.
Saddam Hussein's chemical and biological weapons.
The regime is seeking a nuclear bomb.
And his nuclear program.
The Iraqi regime is building the facilities necessary to make more biological and chemical weapons.
Saddam Hussein has worked to rebuild his chemical and biological weapons stock.
And continuing ties to terrorist organizations.
He has also given aid, comfort, and sanctuary to terrorists.
And there are al-Qaeda terrorists inside Iraq.
Including al-Qaeda members.
That Saddam has resumed his efforts to acquire nuclear weapons.
His missile delivery capability and his nuclear program.
There is no doubt that Saddam Hussein now has weapons of mass destruction.
Now, this much is undisputed. Saddam Hussein's biological and chemical weapons.
He could provide one of his hidden weapons to terrorists.
And to give what he can't use to terrorists, to use weapons of mass destruction, keep trying to develop nuclear weapons.
That Iraq has weapons of mass destruction.
Now, this much is undisputed. Now, this much is undisputed. Now, this much is undisputed.
We know where they are. They're in the area around Tikrit and Baghdad.
Chemical, biological, or, God forbid, nuclear weapons.
We believe he has, in fact, reconstituted nuclear weapons.
Saddam Hussein will continue to increase his capacity to wage biological and chemical warfare, but I cast it with conviction. I cast it with conviction. I cast it with conviction. I cast it with conviction.
I've made it very clear that I made a mistake, plain and simple, and I have written about it in my book.
Just shows you how hard it is to make these choices, which is why I'm calling the book Hard Choices.
So it's fair to say that our economies are entwined, and we need to keep upping our game, both bilaterally and with partners across the region through agreements like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP. Australia is a critical partner. This TPP sets the gold standard in trade agreements to open, free, transparent, fair trade, the kind of environment that has the rule of law and a level playing field.
It's another effort by people looking for something to throw against the wall, as you said in the beginning of the program, to see what sticks, but there's no there.
Well, this one is a little different since the FBI is investigating this specific question of whether a classification was meddled with. Let me ask you about another email in this batch, which was one in which you seemed to express surprise that somebody emailed on their non-State Department personal email, which is what you were doing. Why was that a surprise to you?
That was a mistake. I'm sorry about that. I take responsibility.
Those comments were an abrupt about-face for Clinton, who just 24 hours earlier refused to apologize for her use of private email, telling the AP it was allowed by the State Department. Before now, she has said she is sorry only for any confusion.
Hillary Clinton has long been touting her experience, but questions are being raised now about whether she's done some embellishing of her record. Here's investigative correspondent Cheryl Atkinson.
It was supposed to be an example of Hillary Clinton's battle-tested experience.
I remember landing under sniper fire.
In the speech last week, Senator Clinton was referring to her visit to Tuzla, Bosnia in 1996 as First Lady. The brutal war was over, but hostilities continued. And though the trip was exactly 12 years ago tomorrow, the memories seemed etched in Clinton's mind.
There was supposed to be some kind of a greeting ceremony at the airport, but instead we just ran with our heads down to get into the vehicles to get to our base.
Problem is, that's not what happened. And we should know, CBS News accompanied the First Lady and daughter Chelsea on that Bosnia trip. That's Senator Clinton talking to me on the military flight into Tuzla. And these are the pictures we recorded of the greeting ceremony when the plane landed. Compare that to Senator Clinton's account.
I remember landing under sniper fire. There was no greeting ceremony, and we basically were told to run to our cars. Now that is what happened.
Thank you. There was no sniper fire either when Senator Clinton visited 2 Army outposts where she posed for photos, and no sniper fire back at the base, where she sang at a USO show starring Sinbad and Sheryl Crow. Referring to the CBS News video, Clinton aides today acknowledged her arrival in Bosnia was not quite as dramatic as Clinton put it.
She meant that there was fire in the hillside around the area when we landed, which was the case.
Hundreds of thousands have viewed the video online in just the past few days. A reminder that in politics, memory should always match the videotape. Cheryl Atkinson, CBS News.
On the night of the attacks in Benghazi, you sent an email to your daughter, Chelsea, saying that Al-Qaeda-like group was responsible for the killing of the Americans. However, some of the families claim that you lied to them. Secretary Clinton, did you lie to them?
Just to refresh, here's what Hillary Clinton and President Obama said.
We've seen rage and violence directed at American embassies over an awful internet video that we had nothing to do with.
It was a crude and disgusting video, sparked outrage throughout the Muslim world. Now, I have made it clear that the United States government had nothing to do with this video.
Protests, but that's what was going on, Congressman.
Secretary Clinton, I appreciate most of those attacks were after the attack on the facility in Benghazi. You mentioned Cairo. It was interesting what else Ms. Nuland said that day. She said, if pressed by the press, if there's a connection between Cairo and Benghazi, she said this: there's no connection between the two. So here's what troubles me. Your experts knew the truth. Your spokesperson knew the truth. Greg Hicks knew the truth. But what troubles me more is I think you knew the truth. I want to show you a few things here. You're looking at an email you sent to your family. Here's what you said. At 11 o'clock that night, approximately 1 hour after you told the American people it was a video, you say to your family, 2 officers were killed today in Benghazi by an Al-Qaeda-like group. You tell the American people one thing, you tell your family an entirely different story. Also, on the night of the attack, you had a call with the president of Libya. Here's what you said to him. Ansar al-Sharia is claiming responsibility. It's interesting, Mr. Katala, one of the guys arrested and charged, actually belonged to that group. And finally, and most significantly, the next day, within 24 hours, you had a conversation with the Egyptian Prime Minister. You told him this: we know the attack in Libya had nothing to do with the film. It was a planned attack, not a protest. Let me read that one more time. We know, not we think, not it might be, we know the attack in Libya had nothing to do with the film. It was a planned attack, not a protest. State Department experts knew the truth. You knew the truth. But that's not what the American people got. And again, the American people want to know why. Why didn't you tell the American people exactly what you told the Egyptian Prime Minister?
There are questions being raised. Now, we have no doubt they were terrorists, they were militants, they attacked us, they killed our people. But what was going on and why they were doing what they were doing
Again, we were misled that there were supposedly protests and then something sprang out of that, an assault sprang out of that. And that was easily ascertained that that was not the fact. And the American people could have known that within days, and they didn't know that.
With all due respect, the fact is we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make? It is our job to figure out what happened and do everything we can to prevent it from ever happening again, Senator. Now,
that's all, folks.